Welcome to the Pistons Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Well, Piston fans, tough loss tonight. We fell to the Chicago Bulls. The game came right down to the wire. And 9.7 seconds left, down by 2. We have the ball sidelines out of bounds, and our rookie Jaden Ivey's taking it out. And the thought rushed to my head immediately, of all the guys on our team, why would we want Ivey taking it out? Of course, I want Ivey in the game. I want him to experience all these things, but he needs to calm down. He gets a little bit excited in a lot of situations, and it just didn't make sense. So I'm sure that Coach Casey or some of the coaches told him that we didn't have any timeouts left, and he just panicked. And actually, I think Bogey might have been open, and he had time left, but I think he panicked is what he did. And obviously, he was heartbroken. One thing I do want to say is it's just like in Michigan, we know about in the national championship game when Chris Webber called timeout against North Carolina, and everybody talks about that play and like it cost us the game. But guess what? If he wouldn't have called the timeout, and that obviously took away any chance we had of winning the game, but we would have had to score. So we would have had to got the ball in. We would have had to not got the ball in. We would have had to just score on that play, and everything was kind of helter-skelter. But we would have had to score. So the same thing if Ivey would have got the ball in bounds, we still had to score. So there's no guarantee of scoring. And if we scored 2, the game would have still gone into overtime. So anyway, it is hard, and I do appreciate the way that you saw Bogey talking to him afterwards. I mean, right away on the court, you could see his reaction and Hami's reaction that we knew that, they knew that we didn't have any timeouts left. And you could tell that Ivey was just heartbroken, and he does take everything to heart after every game. No matter how good he plays, he takes all of his mistakes to heart, and I love him for that. But he does need to relax, and that will happen. He's just a young player. So, but we want to talk about this game, and I'm concerned, and you know that at this stage of the game, when we have a team with the record that we have, we're 15-48, and we are going out there. We have a player who's going to be 34 here really, really soon, Bogdanovich, who was just masterful tonight. He just is incredible. But he has like tendonitis or something in his Achilles. He's 34. We play him 40 minutes, 39 minutes. He plays more than anybody on either team. He's just coming off an injury. And I looked it up. Out of all the top 30 scorers in the NBA, there are only 2 players in the whole league of the top 30 scorers that have played more games than Bojan Bogdanovic. And why is that? And those are teams that are contending. Those are players who are contending for playoff spots. And so what are we doing? I mean, the Spurs, they're shutting down 21-year-olds that don't even have anything wrong with them. And, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle are the only 2 guys that have played more games than Bojan out of the top 30 scorers. And everybody else has played, like 10 games less. So why don't we give him a rest? He doesn't rest. My thinking is, and I don't know this, I have no inside sources, but that he wants to play so bad, and he wants to try to win so bad. I really admire him, but that the general manager has to take that decision out of his hands and out of the coach's hands. It still is just Casey should have known not to play him 39 minutes, even though he was on fire. But because nobody played 39 minutes, as good as the Bulls players was, as good as DeRozan, especially Levine, was smoking hot. They played 3 minutes less. So, I am about trying to get that high draft pick, the best odds. And I know a lot of you are going to say, even if we do have the 14% and we end up with the 6th or 7th pick, you're going to say, see, that was dumb of us. But the truth is, we are, no matter how good we play, we're not going to make the play-in. We still need to play our young players, but it's just frustrating. We could have won that game. We were 2 points down with 9 seconds to go, and the other games we've had tough, close games. 2-point loss to Orlando, and if they would have called the foul, I think Bagley got fouled on a 3, and they called it only a 2-shot foul, and he was shooting a 3, but he missed one free throw anyway. So I don't know what that would happen. And then the same thing happened where Ivey made the 3, and somebody undercut him against Toronto, and they didn't call it. So yeah, I just don't know quite what we're doing. I really am concerned now. We were luckily with Charlotte, we lost that game. And again, you might disagree with me. We all have opinions, and I just want us to get the highest odds. But now they have LaMelo Ball, who was out of this world in that game. He has a broken ankle, so he's done for the year. They've already announced it. And so we're only 5 games behind them. So we could easily, we have the 3rd worst record now, but we could easily, if we win these games, it happens really fast. And we have a lot of easy games. In a upcoming episode, I'm going to go over the remaining schedules. But we have a lot of easy games or easier games remaining with the Pacers. We got another game with Charlotte, and they're probably going to lose every game the rest of the year. They got no LaMelo, and So anyway, we'll just talk about this game, that it was really crazy for the Bulls. They were, they're 3-7, but they're not a smart team. So, DeRozan is a great player. He had 21 points and 7 of 16 and 7 for 9 from the line. But LaVine, he had 41 points, 14 for 20, 6 for 9, 7 for 7 from the line. He did not touch the ball in the fourth quarter. So we make this comeback. We're down by 21 points, and we outscored them, by all those points in the fourth quarter. They could not score. And they got Vucevic jacking up threes. He jacked up 2 threes. They turned the ball over. They didn't just get the ball to LaVine, or at least to DeRozan in that fourth quarter. Of course, they rested the first part of the fourth quarter, but then when everything was falling apart, they did not touch the ball. So that was, I think, bad coaching on their part. So, Bogey was, again, I'm not diminishing the thrill of watching somebody play the game of basketball as well as he did. He's been struggling lately. He's had 2 of his worst games since the All-Star game. And tonight, though, he was 11 for 21, 8 of 12 on threes. And they weren't just open. They just weren't open shots. And he was 4 for 4 from the line. He had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. And, another thing about it is, and I'm not against having him on the team. Again, I appreciate him. I love that he's one of my team's players. But what are we doing? We are going to try. He will probably not be on our team when we go deep into the playoffs. Not, he's going to be 34. He'll be 36 by the end of when we have him signed for, and we might keep him around. I think he'd be valuable to have come off the bench and be in your locker room and talk to your players, just like he talked to Ivey after he called that timeout. But basketball is all about opportunities. So guys, I've talked about it all year, different guys score or don't score, and sometimes, it just depends on how many shots they get. Well, when Bogey's taking a lot of our shots, the young players aren't taking the shots. So, and sometimes it's been helpful. We're always short on our post players. For the last 3 years, our post players are always injured. And so like tonight we're short on our post players, but they hardly touch the ball tonight. So they've been tearing it up. They've been, they dominated against the Hornets. They were just incredible, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But so tonight, Wiseman, he played 29 minutes, and I guess that's not terrible, but he had 7 points, 3 for 5. He got 5 shots. He had 9 rebounds, which is great for 29 minutes. 2 assists, and one great play. He got a rebound. He kind of lost his balance, fell on his butt, fell on his back, and he made a pass for an assist to somebody. That was a really cool play. But Jaden Ivey, who again, heartbroken. I'm sure he won't sleep tonight. 31 minutes, 5 for 9, 2 for 4 on threes. He made his first 2, 6 for 9 for the line. I thought he was shooting worse than that from the line, but he missed I guess every free throw you miss in a close game is key. But he had 4 rebounds and 2 assists. And Killian Hayes, I was happy to see him shoot better. He was 5 for 9, but only 1 for 4 on threes, which is about what his 3-point percentage is about 22% for the year, which is bad. But he did have 7 assists, 3 turnovers. He was minus 17, which is the worst on the team tonight. Hami's been shooting 65%. He's 7th in the NBA in shooting percentage, and it's just incredible what he does every night, how consistently great he's been. He's 7 for 13 and 5 for 5 from the line, which he's usually not a good free throw shooter, but he was 5 for 5 from the line tonight. And he was plus 14, and so was Marvin Bagley. So explain to me, someone needs to explain to me, Dwayne Casey, Bagley, who has just been dominant. So against the Raptors, he played 27 minutes, had 21 points and 18 rebounds. And then he turns around against the Hornets. He plays only 24 minutes. He has 21 points and 10 for 16 shooting and 12 rebounds, 4 offensive. So he dominated those 2 games. And so tonight he plays 19 minutes and he only gets 5 shots, and he was 4 for 4 from the line, and it doesn't make any sense. And so Burks played only 18 minutes. Again, I can't figure that out. He was plus 12 next to Bagley and Hami. He had the best plus minus, but he was 2 for 7 on threes, 3 for 4 from the line, 4 rebounds in only 18 minutes. And our old buddy Kojo, he's in there at the end of the game. He's plays 25 minutes, and he's not going to be part of our team, and he's 1 for 3 and 1 for 3. So again, I don't know whether he probably, lost. He didn't win or lose the game for us, but we think that we're better off having a veteran in there instead of having one of our young guys play in there, instead of putting Bagley in there and let him play a few minutes. So anyway, today's Troy's birthday, so I think that based on what he takes a lot of criticism for his accumulating of centers, which he's done since he's been with the Pistons, but he has to be tickled with the way that Wiseman and Bagley have performed. And again, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and different places that kind of trash them. Another thing, I got to say this, I saw some things on Twitter where some people had a conspiracy theory that we try to blow the game by Ivey not throwing the ball in at the end of the game. And that's just so ridiculous. We are trying to win. We are trying to win. You do not play a 34-year-old guy that's coming off an injury 40 minutes in a game when your team is only 15 and 48 if you're not trying to win as hard as you can. I mean, I think Coach Casey makes some ill-advised decisions about playing time that don't make any sense to me, especially like, again, Bagley playing 19 minutes tonight. And he thinks he can't play Wiseman and Bagley together. Well, again, I've said this before. Why don't you find out? We need to find out. We need to find out what is it going to look like with Duren and Wiseman, or Bagley and Wiseman, or any combination of those 3 guys, because they're all very, very talented. So another thing I just got a big kick out of, I don't understand. People have this negativity. Well, and before I forget, James Edwards, who is a good writer for The Athletic and he's the beat writer for the Pistons, he comes on and says that, that he's tired of these crazy conspiracy theories, which that is, thinking that we were trying to lose on that last play, because we weren't. But then he says, well, yeah, why would Ivey do that when if we get a high draft pick, then somebody's going to be able to take Ivey's place? We're just going to draft somebody to replace him with. Well, that the only way that that could even conceivably happen is if we fell into the number 2 spot, which the odds of that aren't very great of happening. There's 14% chance we would get the number 2 spot. So anyway, but then he suggested that Ivey would never do that because Ivey, doesn't want us to draft somebody maybe better than him, like Scoot Henderson, to take his place. So, but I get a big kick out of Andre Drummond. He played for the Pistons, I don't know how many years, over 10 years, and he he is one of the best rebounders in NBA history. So he ranks 13th, averaged 12.84 rebounds per game. He has over 10,000 rebounds in 11 seasons. And, he looks a little bit doofy. He looks slow. He lumbers up and down the court. He doesn't the fastest. So people take that like he doesn't care. You can't just get that many rebounds and not care. And he was misfortunate that he played on bad teams with the Pistons. And then the evolution of the center position, which it really is that the big centers like him, the big body, big rebounding guys. I mean, he got averaged 12, almost 13 rebounds a game and 14 points and shot like 60% for the Pistons. But in today's game, those players aren't as valuable, and they don't, I don't think they contribute to winning as much as. But anyway, he has higher rebounding average than the great Moses Malone and Elvin Hayes and Dwight Howard. Those are, considered three of the best rebounders in history, and Andre Drummond has better, but I just don't understand why people boo him. I could understand a little bit with Blake Griffin because the last season Blake was with us, he never even went inside the three-point line. He had a great season. The season prior was an all-star. He had a sensational season, one of the better seasons in Piston history, but he didn't even try. Maybe he was worried about getting hurt again, but he stayed out to the three-point line and shot threes and passed the ball around, but he never had a dunk for like the last year and a half he was with the Pistons, but I don't know. So if you wanted to boo him for that because you didn't think he was trying, that's your prerogative. But so I'm going to talk a little bit about a coach that I talked about replacing Dwayne Casey was Quinn Snyder, that coached for Utah for the Jazz, and they had great teams. They were the winningest team in the league a couple years. They had a real high percentage of their games. Probably during that time, I think he might have been the highest win percentage for those years that he was at Utah, and he just signed with the Atlanta Hawks, who just fired their coach, and Nate McMillan. And it's ironic, Nate McMillan took over in the 2021 season. They were doing terrible. So the Hawks were like 4-20. And then Nate McMillan comes in, they're 26-12 the rest of the year. They catch fire, they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And so that's partway why you change coaches. And but so now they're going to try to do that with getting Quinn Snyder. I will be curious. So they still have there was speculation that they were trying to get Bogey and at the trade deadline, but they didn't get him. So I'm sure that Quinn Snyder's going to have a lot of input into who they trade for. So John Collins is still on their team. Depends on, we'll be able to see what pick we get. So obviously I pretty much know that if we get the number 1 pick, we're getting Wemby. If we get the number 2 pick, we're taking Scoot. And if we get the number 3 pick, I'm betting on Brandon Miller. And so any one of those players would dictate what you're going to do with your roster and who you want to trade. But anyway, I think that'll be interesting to see. And he also coached Burks, so he might, knowing what he knows about them, that might make him, want to trade for those guys. But we'll see about that. But I still really do want to go over that Charlotte game. We were down 21 to the Bulls and came back. We were way down against the Hornets, and we cut it to 5 points. We were down by 24, I think, against the Hornets, and with like 5 minutes left in the game, we cut it down to 5. We ended up losing by 11, but we made a gallant comeback. We had nobody playing. We had 4 of our top 5 players. 4 of our top. Stu was out, Duran was out, Bogey was out, and Ivey was out for personal reasons. So, but our points in the paint, where we've gotten hammered all year, but we played those 2 big guys, was 70. We scored 70, outscored them 70-52, and we out-rebounded them. I don't think we out-rebounded them. I think they out-rebounded us 46-39. But anyway, the point is, we didn't even play the 2 big guys together except for the final 3 minutes. So why? Why don't we see what it looks like on the court when we were getting killed? And I know that we got to watch to see if, one of them gets in foul trouble right away, then we're not, and we play both of them, then we're not going to be able to sub anybody else in. But Livers also didn't. Livers played against the Hornets, and he played 8 minutes and then sprained his ankle, so he was out again tonight. But Wiseman was spectacular. He played 26 minutes. He was 9 for 11, and 1 for 1 from the line, 1 for 1 on threes, 23 points and 7 rebounds. And he showed us a lot his bag of tricks, man. He hit a three. He did his Euro step. Kojo passed him the ball. He's racing up the court. You don't usually give your post the ball right at center court, but he got the ball, dribbled through traffic, did his Euro step, and did a little finger roll. He made another move where he slashed to the basket, got a pass, and hammered a dunk. He made his jump hook. He can make that. He's got a really soft touch from 8 to 10 feet out even, and he made one of those. He made another outside jumper from the top of the key. So he showed a lot, and it is so exciting. And does that guarantee that he's going to be a Hall of Famer? No. Or even a All-Star, or even a great player? No. But it sure is a positive. He sure looked great, and he still makes things, again, by having that size down there, it affects the points in the paint. But like I've said, I just really want to see us play two of those big guys together, and also along with Stewart, having one of those big guys plus Stu down there to see what happens. So we played Wiseman 26 minutes. We played Bagley 24 minutes because they only could play 3 minutes the whole game together. We're playing Rodney Magruder in that game 30 minutes. He scored 4 points. He was 1 for 6, 1 for 4 on threes, minus 13, the worst on the team, except along with Killian, who played 35 minutes and was 4 for 13. He did have 10 assists and only 1 turnover, which is awesome. But my point is, why are we playing those guys? Hami deserved to play a lot. He played 33 minutes, and he was 10 for 15 and had 23 points. But he's not signed for next year, so we don't have him under contract. So, there's no guarantee he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year. And then Kojo plays 28 minutes, and he's 1 for 7, and we're playing him 28 minutes. So I don't know what is Troy or Casey base his playing time on. And so I just hope that those guys get to play together. And I think the rest of the way, we shut down Jeremy Grant last year at the end of the year, and he just didn't play. But Bojan has an injury, and he didn't practice. Those guys didn't practice. Bojan couldn't practice yesterday because he's injured, and he comes out and plays 39 minutes. So, you gotta tell me about that. Anyway, shout out to Antoine Davis, who plays for the University of Detroit. And tomorrow, if he scores 25 points tomorrow, he will pass my all-time hero. My two of my non-Piston heroes. Well, there's 3 of them that I just loved that weren't Pistons. Pistol Pete Maravich, Jerry West, and Magic Johnson. Throughout my life, those are the 3 guys that weren't Pistons that I just love. And now maybe you can throw in Steph Curry a little bit there, but. The only difference is for my boy Pistol Pete, he didn't have the 3-point line, and man, he could shoot it from just over half court with guys hanging all over him. And so he would have even tried to shoot more threes, but he didn't. The other thing is he could not play. The NCAA did not allow freshmen to play, so he didn't get to play his freshman year. And so he only played 3 years. He averaged 44 points a game over 3 years in college without a 3-point line. And so Antoine Davis not only got to play his freshman year, but the NCAA, because of COVID, granted all the players an extra year. So he's played basically 5 years, and Pistol Pete's basically played 3 years. And now if he scores, so they're playing the number 1 seed, Youngstown State, I think, tomorrow. And if he scores 25 points, he'll pass Pistol Pete. And there's a little bit of, obviously Pistol's my hero, but one guy's played 5 seasons, one guy's played 3 seasons, one guy had a 3-point line, which Davis is fantastic at shooting threes. He can shoot step backs with guys all over him. So we'll see what happens there. But if you want to go to a good site, go to Tankathon, where like I said, I'm fearful that we got so many easy games left, and we're trying as hard as we can to win when all these other teams are tanking, and there's a thing called a simulator. It's SIM. It's on Tankathon at the top, and you can click on it, and then you can see where the randomness of the lottery. And so you can, every time you punch it, it gives you different odds. But there's these bottom three teams have a 14% chance, but there's a lot of teams that have good odds. So it's almost inevitable that some of the teams that are not the bottom four teams jump up. Probably two teams probably will jump ahead, and that pushes everybody else back down, which could, like it did with the Pistons last year. We had the third worst record, and we picked fifth. And that was when only one team jumped ahead. I think Sacramento was the only team that jumped ahead. So I want to shout out to the Saline Hornets. That's where my daughter's the head coach down by Ann Arbor, and they won their 20th game of the year. They also were conference champs, and they're going to be playing in the district finals. And my granddaughter Kira is on that team, and she's a sensational freshman. And so shout out, good luck to the Saline Hornets. But thank you for listening. I know this is kind of a little bit, I'm pretty jacked up, and I didn't have as much time as I usually do to organize my thoughts because I wanted to get this out there. But I love my Pistons. I want them to get the best chance possible to get that high draft pick. But anyway, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. That's really important, and it really helps me if you subscribe and then leave a thumbs up. If you know a Piston fan, share this. Even if you disagree with my opinions, even if you don't like my opinions, I just find that there's not enough Piston content out there. But just tell somebody about the Piston Fanatic. So thank you for listening. Do something nice for somebody today, and go Pistons.